attribute to look back at.
Hang on. If I am okay, how many people work on a film? Hundreds of people?
Yeah.
Production designers, producers, etc. The door is not locked for a perfectly good reason. Every one of them should be going, what's the perfectly good reason?
Right.
That's a comment that I'm like, that isn't explained. I don't understand.
I agree, yeah.
Why doesn't the door open? If the door just opened on its own, suddenly he's flabbergasted by what's happening. You just hear, once again, the water germ over here. Why can't the door open and draw him?
I would have been, exactly. I would have found it more mysterious if in this, again, looking at these a minute at a time, is as he backs away from Nova, the doors just open behind him, and he's not realizing he's entering into the cavern itself until the doors then close
the door
behind
slams.
him. Exactly, which gives him a reason to be separated from Nova, because otherwise he just looks like an ass.
Well, and then Nova we could have had the reverse angle of her running and pounding on the door.
Trying to get to the door.
And
Otherwise we get
to the other side,
nothing.
we don't hear her pounds. You know, it's something's done. There's so many ways they could have done it, but I don't blame the filmmakers. This is, once again, the studio has to have been interfering and saying, come on, just shoot, just go. So they're not doing the correct creative thoughts that are going on. If the three of us who are not filmmakers are having these thoughts, you would think they would have.
So if I were the audience watching this and I were watching this for the first time and I had seen the underground, lava buried New York, and maybe I didn't notice the doors at first because there was a lot of stuff happening around that I maybe it didn't click on me that the doors were pristine. When we get this shot right here of the door handles, that's when I would have realized this is something new. This is right. Something clean and pristine, because we then get kind of the back of his head and the top of the inside interior door handles as he kind of takes a moment to kind of to come down from the stinging gnat noise that was kind of moving in his head. We also get something interesting at this moment too. For all of how quiet it was when they're walking beneath New York City, we get the little bit of incidental stuff that's the gnat to say that something is happening in his head, and the music actually starts back up again. Yeah, it's at the very, very end of this minute. For a second, we actually hear kind of that dramatic orchestra pop back up.
There's so many interesting things they could have done with this. And again, I think that this is a very compelling part of the movie. But, going back to the whole idea of the doors opening, even with horror films, how many times do doors open and light comes out of it?
Oh, shaft.
And every one of us in the theater says, don't go in there. But secretly, we want them to go in.
Otherwise, there's no movie.
Right. We want that till any moment. We don't get that here. We just get the awkwardness of it's the characters doing things for no other reason that the plot needs them to do it.
Do you think that, speaking of, doors opening and the don't go in there kind of stuff, would you be affected by the fact that as a viewer not to go in here because the doors are pristine versus the stuff that's on the other side? Because the doors themselves are not terrifying.
No.
Like I would not be like, don't go in there. No, it looks like a perfectly nice place. There might be some beds and some clothes inside.
To pull that off, to get the light pouring out, you would have to put the doors in shadow. So you wouldn't see and it does. It's going to take a different lighting effect here to pull that off.
Well, that's what it says. He forces himself back over the dark threshold.
Yeah. So there it is in the script. Why didn't somebody say let's light the doors dark?
It's mentioned in the next minute too. The idea that this might not be as lit as we get in the next moment. I did like the very, very last beat of this minute that we actually see him sigh. Like he kind of turns his head a little bit to the right, and you just see him go.
Yeah,
like he's finally free of whatever was happening outside.
I find myself watching this moment feeling for Franciscus. I understand his frustration with that script.
Well, that's just it. If he were doing, offering dialogue rewrites, this entire scene would have been a really good moment for him to actually add some stuff to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's devoid of any of it.
Didn't they only have a couple of weeks? And now it's been so long since we talked about that, but weren't there only a couple of weeks that he and the writer, or maybe even a couple of days, where they sat down and did their rewrite? So they may have gotten to this and going, okay, I kind of like that. I kind of like it. Because again, it's written different than it was shot.
And maybe that's part of his stuff, the duality. He wanted to see that happen to kind of bring out more to his character rather than
that would have been a very interesting choice to leave at least, whether you do it with the reflection or whether you do it with the Gollum style where he's talking to one side and the other, one side and the other, one side and the other. Could have been cool.
I don't know. But that's all the notes I have.
Sean, you went very quiet at the end. Let Richard
Yeah,
and
I
talk.
know. We
Hey,
kinda like-
y'all had stuff to talk about. This was a boring damn minute.
I got to the end of this minute. I'm like, why is Nova still outside? Like, I'm really concerned for Nova now being alone. Like, he's sighing a sigh of relief from having whatever just
Not
happened to the
killed
water
her or
fountain, not
whatever.
killed her. And I, on the other hand, I'm like, I'm worried about her. I'm not worried about. I don't care that he feels fine. I'm worried about how her almost drowning and now she's outside that door by herself.
Well, this isn't Nova's story. It's
Well,
Brent's story.
actually, and I know this because I edit these pretty far after the fact. The ones I edited today talked about that. At one point, we'd all supposed that is Nova the main character of this film.
Mm-hmm.
When you really begin to think about, she's the R2D2 and C-3PO of this
Yeah.
film, where she's sort of taking us scene to scene. She is that person that bumbles along and takes us where we need to go.
She's the comedy.
Well, for lack of a better term, she's the actually only resilient character that somehow survives and has a path she's going. They abandon her. All of a sudden, everything has been about where Nova's taking us, where we're going, and to this point, boom.
No more Nova.
Nova at this point is no longer the main character.
Yeah.
Poor Nova.
Oh, well.
So sad.
What a downer for a Tuesday, but that is Tuesday. We will be back tomorrow on Wednesday.
Yes, with some good stuff.
This is where it starts getting extra juicy, and I kind of wonder what Sean's going to think. I know that you were teased with the trailer that we watched at the end
Yes.
of Planet of the Apes. Some of that stuff's coming, mi amigo.
Yes.
All right, we will be back tomorrow with another minute of Planet of the Apes. Until then, for Sean and Richard, I'm Todd. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Beneath the minute of the apes. Beneath the minute of the apes. Beneath the minute of the apes.
The only good human is a dead human.